Do you remember your first major project?
There have been many first projects in multiple different sort of steps of my life or my architectural journey, I would say. At various different junctures, I stumbled on my firsts. So I can count about 3 or 4 different firsts in my probably 5 to 10 years of intervals of journey. But there are two projects which have sort of stayed with me. One was for a technology giant for their regional headquarters in the Middle East. Very, very special. And that also won us the best workspace award in that category in the year 2009.
Hi Kshitij, welcome to Walk the Talk with Bulbeer.
Thank you, Balbir.
Thank
Thank you
you
so much for being here.
Thank you for making time and inviting me to your new beautiful office. Heartiest congratulations.
Thank you so much.
I
I'm,
totally
I'm
love
so
the
happy that you
space.
love the space. Thank you so much.
Absolutely. So let's begin with your journey and early inspiration. What first inspired you to enter the world of architecture and design?
So the early inspiration was seeing my father practice. He is also an architect who practiced between almost early 70s till about late 2000s. And seeing him go about his early careers and then setting up of his office, the kind of work that he did, the kind of risks that he took, the kind of design language that he had, that sort of was an early onset. And to the best of my knowledge, I never had any other option after completing my basic 10th and 12th. And the only option was to always go for architecture. And I was sort of blessed to get my admission into the prestigious Rashna School of Rashna Sansad's College of Architecture in year 1995. And the background of architecture was always there, although his uh, tool to express his architectural creativity was more from the buildings, whereas I always was fond of a very, very collaborative, large, multinational, multidimensional sort of a practice. And I think that sort of a baseline got much more solid during my architectural days. So generally, the curiosity that I always had for the structures, for the finer things that you see around, why you like certain things, why you dislike certain things. And it came from the very simple notion that architecture is such a vast field that it has an ability and a force to literally change everything that is not quite right around you. So the power that it yields or the power that it builds in the whole notion of architecture is what sort of excited me the most.
Do you remember your first major project? What did that project teach you that still stays with you?
Wow. There have been many first projects in multiple different sort of steps of my life or my architectural journey, I would say. So first and foremost, it so happened that like there's an old saying that the famous actors get to the first movie chooses the actors, and then ultimately what they choose, that is what they are defined by. So it is the workplace as a core specialty that it chose me. Eventually I grew fond of it, and at various different junctures, I stumbled on my firsts. So I can count about 3 or 4 different firsts in my probably 5 to 10 years of intervals of journey. So early on, I got to design a very small office space for about 5,000 square feet. That itself was very, very challenging. The learnings, the unstructured way of workplace design then, and the way the workplace design has come today, there is a vast degree of difference. But there are two projects which have sort of stayed with me, the most. One was for a technology giant for their regional headquarters in the Middle East, and so they had the technology of the entire world, at their feet, and they could do whatever that they wanted. And basically, they allowed us to actually explore the workplace dynamics through a lot of analysis. And normally, where a client would give you sort of 15 days to a month to actually get into the concepts, these clients actually allowed us to sit in the office, observe how they operate, come up with our own solutions, probably then added their own workplace analytics from the way they operated their global workplace. And then the design brief came about. So the design brief exercise itself took about a month. Eventually, the space planning took about another month. And the beauty of that was it was so sorted in terms of the thought process. And that sort of expanded the way I thought about the workplace in totality, which was more than just the table, chairs, and brick and mortar in the way the partitions are made. So that workplace was so ahead of its time. This I'm talking about circa 2007 or 2008, when nobody had thought about a scenario, probably, that the technology could be so integrated with the workplace design. And when I say we were ahead of the time, I think all of us sort of experienced what COVID did to us. It sort of made most of us work from home, with or without our wishes. Now this project was probably 19 years before, or probably 15 years before the COVID struck. And the question that it started was from that: when you can work anywhere in the world, why do you need an office? That was the first question that defined the kind of workplace that we did. We sort of experimented with various different spaces. We observed, we sort of tinkered with small things, large things. We expanded the concept of multiple different spaces, collaborative spaces, agile spaces. So the getting a chance to work on these concepts, which are now very, very mainstream in about past 5 to 10 years, was what made that project very, very special. And that also won us the best workspace award in that category in the year
Oh,
2009.
nice. Awesome. That's been a journey, huh?
It has been a journey, yes, and then that project will always stay with me. Where
I have heard the whole thing, so I know how well it stayed.
So basically, I always kept on saying that, we always had the tools and the tackles that probably literally allowed us to work from anywhere. The technology was there. What it required was a natural or an unnatural intervention that forced us into actually implementing those technologies. And then the workplace, the way we design today, the way we operate today, has completely changed, and that has become more mainstream. And our the opportunity that we got to actually see this firsthand, probably 13 years before the actual COVID pandemic struck, I think that really renders that project very, very special and ahead of its time.
You've delivered over 20 million square feet of built space. When you look back, what makes you feel most proud?
So, workplace. I mean, when you bundle up the number together, it's a scary number. Uh, you know, the interesting part is, regardless of the scale of the project, the challenges are the same.
Of
So
course.
be it a 5,000 square feet an office space, or 100,000 square feet, or probably a million square feet of an office, the challenges will pretty much remain the same at the planning level. Execution level, the scale might be different and stuff like that. But then the workplace per se has changed. The workplace design has changed so many gears, that it has not been stagnant at all. So having a very, very gridiron sort of a workplace, to a very hierarchical workplace, to then going into an all the way agile kind of a workplace, where everything is open, to then early on scenarios where everything was so hierarchical that there were multiple types of cabins and cubicles and workstations, and there's a great degree of rigidity in all of them. So today, it's not this or that. It's a very interesting mix of what we can achieve out of multiple different learnings and multiple different suitable forms of design that it can take. So workplace has become more to do with the functional aspects of what work needs to be done, rather than the hierarchical aspects of what the person enjoys. So that is one very, very important fact of the matter. Second is that workplace designers, or me as a workplace designer, have really, really grown into someone who holds a great deal of humility and a sort of a responsibility, because uh, you know I take a great responsibility to every single line that I draw, because it becomes a partition or a wall that sort of makes or breaks a space. A random workstation that you're going to place somewhere is going to become someone's tool to make the living. So that is how seriously I look at the workplace design. And I think that sort of percolates in every line that we draw, every workplace that we place, every collaborative area that we design, or every meeting seat that we design. So fundamentally, the 20 million square feet, it's easy to look back on those being the number of square footages, or the number of tables and chairs, or the desks and chairs, with the benefit of hindsight. And what has remained the most is that, at the end of the day, the workplace has to deliver its part, rather than being the skin dip or the cosmetic part of it. Ultimately, the workplace need to be designed as a conducive space, which basically enables people and businesses thrive. So that is one very, very strong sort of a pivot is something that I have learned over the period through these 20 plus million square feet of real estate or a workspace.
How did the idea of founding Be That Space come into existence?
Wow.
I love the name.
Thank you.
It's different.
So I'll come to the name part probably a
Later,
little
yeah,
later.
sure.
The idea of founding this came from a scenario that, so there's a bit of a precursor. So I had a great opportunity to sort of go and study abroad, like most of my peers around early 2000s. Uh, but then I said, that the way our country is going, the way things are happening, the way the vision of Bharat or India is sort of taking shape. I said I would want to be the center of it. If I go abroad, I'll be probably spending probably at least 6 7 years to do my studies, and then probably earn money and probably repay my loans if any, and sort of come back. I would have missed the bus. And I think that decision probably early on, I would say, paid back in spades. Became part of a very very small firm, as a part of their founding team, as a part of their core management team. Scaled that company or scaled that venture to amazing heights for close to 23 years. That's technically half of my life and probably 100% of my experience till about 2023. And the life has an uncanny ability to sort of surprise you at the most unexpected times. And at that point in time, I think you need to have uh, the conviction to act, because I sort of kept on getting the feeling that after having designed and built close to 20 million square feet across India, Middle East, Southeast Asia for the global giant companies, Indian multinationals or Indian top-notch firms, eventually I came to realize uh, that it was becoming kind of monotonous. Uh, and in this field of all the other fields, the ability to stay relevant, uh, that's very very important. And I could feel that somewhere that creative age was getting lost. It was becoming more about sort of delivering the project in time, in a fast track sort of a manner. Somewhere I felt there is much more creativity left in me, there is much more exploration ability left in me. And then that's when I said, I have to remain relevant, and hence the gutsy decision of venturing out sort of happened. And industry has been kind. All the people that I've worked for, fondly recalled me and sort of, very happy to work with me. A lot of my past colleagues, showed the confidence and sort of came and joined the team and sort of gave me that, wind beneath my wings, and sort of literally underpinned the organization. uh, Today, we are proudly present in 4 cities, more than 60 odd people, doing amazing kind of work. For an architect, the name of the firm is the most important part, and for that matter, any business, I would say. And hence, I said, the name has to be such that it has to, one, create a legacy. Second, it that name has to become your primary source of inspiration. So Be That Space came about one fine night when I was thinking, thinking a lot over more than many many months, and it just struck out of nowhere. Why couldn't it be that simple? Be That Space, is almost like you're conversing with inanimate. I'm let's say I'm an architect, I'm conversing with the space, saying that, go be that space, go be that restaurant, go be that office, or go be whatever that you wish to be. Or for that matter, if my client asks me, what kind of a space would you like, would you like to design for me? I said, we would like to design your space to be that space. And it's in a way sort of a conversation with the inanimate. It's a declaration of an intent, and that sort of percolates it down the line. And most beautifully, in that entire phrase of Be That Space, it is that which is a very important part. So it is that portion, that, or the word that, renders the uniqueness in every project that we do. So, what is so different about, in the project that we did? So it is, that's something that we did, basically. So workplaces are
That's
like,
deep.
that's deep. So I never knew that I had such philosophical and spiritual depths
Yeah,
in me. I
even I
think
don't
probably
know.
sort of came from that. So it's an interesting metaphor I'm going to tell you. So as a child, you must have drawn snowflakes, right? All snowflakes look the
Of
same in your
course,
mind.
yeah,
But if you look at it through microscope, every snowflake looks different.
absolutely.
Likewise, when you close your eyes and think about a concept of an office space, to most of the people, it's tables and chairs and some reception lobbies and cafeteria. So largely they say, oh, office is supposed to look like this. They're conventional notions. But there are those two, three, four, five, six factors that differentiates one workspace from the another. And
Elements.
so that is where the differentiation comes from. And the most important word is be. There has never been a more assertive or action oriented word than be. Probably Nike's just do it. Be is being in the moment. It also sort of says, be whatever you want to be, and so that basically converts the intangible notion into a tangible space, and in between there is be, and to make that unique is that, and that's how the space comes about. So that's the story behind, and very happy with the way sort of I was able to internalize that concept. My co-directors were able to internalize that concept. My colleagues, the kind of feedback that I got from the industry was quite heartwarming. So yes, so that is what we will be known as,
Fabulous.
and hope to strive on, you know, with Be That Space going forward.
I'm sure, of course. So, when it comes to design philosophy and the sector insights, how do you balance creativity with client budgets and commercial realities?
Wow, that's a large question rolled into one. So, for me, as I said again, while I was telling you about, what goes inside a workspace. So, architecture to me, or a workplace design to me, it's definitely about aesthetics, undoubtedly. Uh, but then, at the end of the day, it has to also serve its purpose or a function. The way bicycle looks is because the way it needs to function. A rocket looks the way it looks because it needs to function in a particular way. Similarly, aesthetics for me, the workplace design for me, or any design for that matter to me, has to come from the fact as to what is at the core of it. So while thinking about one single line statement, that if I was supposed to tell somebody what is it that I do, I always tell people that we design and build conducive spaces where ideas grow, people thrive, and businesses sort of thrive again. So ultimately, it is not about only businesses doing well or people doing well. Ultimately, our job is to provide them the conducive space or an environment which basically allows them to do what do they do best. So that's where I think the whole notion of aesthetics comes into play. Now, the word conducive could be multi pronged. Conducive could mean there could be a certain budget. Conducive could mean there could be a certain vibe. Conducive could mean there could be certain qualitative or time related constraints, or sort of outline sort of situations. My point is that conducive, the definition of conducive changes from client to client, and it is a job of me and my team to find what exactly that conducive means in a prescriptive way for every design or every project that we do, to make sure that it because conducive is a very vague word, and to convert that into a prescriptive form that you can actually tick and saying, yes, we have been able to achieve those aspirations. So that is my sort of semblance of what I mean when I say, we'll be doing this project in a aesthetically certain way. Or so I'm very, very agnostic to the aesthetical styles. That way it keeps me very, very open minded, very, very open to accept clients ideas. At the end of the day, we need to understand it is less about me and more about them. It is more about the people who are going to be working from these offices, and ultimately it is about creating that ecosystem where the purpose of an office space is getting truly served, or for that matter retail space, or for that matter institutional space, or a healthcare space, or any kind of
Any
space. So it's
yeah.
a very broad ranging sort of a philosophy. Is that we would like to design, or we design and build conducive spaces where ideas grow, people thrive, and businesses flourish. And that beautifully applies to people. And nobody can find any nook into it saying that this is something that is not in line with our thought process. It's just a matter of creating a prescriptive methodology as to what conducive means. That's it's as simple as that.
Perfect. How has workspace design evolved in the last 10 years, especially post pandemic?
So as I said, post pandemic, it has evolved in a certain way, only and only because people were compelled to use the technologies, the tools that were always available, and people were sort of cynical to use it. Or at best, some of the global giants had sort of installed these as business continuity measures in the worst case scenario. Nobody knew that an event of such a global magnitude would ever hit, and it would actually compel us to sort of put all of these sort of tools and technologies into place. Only thing that had to follow was the mindset to actually adapt to that. Now what has happened was that there were people painting extremely dystopian pictures. There were people painting extremely utopian sort of scenarios. And I always sort of told people that we cannot be playing oracle by forecasting that this is how the workplace is going to move, because ultimately workplace design is going to move the way business demands it to move. Correct. It is going to respond to the changing circumstances. It is going to respond to the new set of rules and norms and parameters which are going to sort of allow people to work in a particular way, operate in a particular way, reach office in a particular way, collaborate in a particular way. Ultimately, what one was the physical need of people to connect, the five senses, the touch, the contact, the eye contact, the smells, and all these kind of things. And ultimately, the physical workplace sort of came back to normalcy, and I would say with a vengeance. Uh, the post-pandemic workplace growth has exploded, and there are multiple data points to sort of underpin this, and that sort of reflects in everybody's growth that currently sees around. And if nothing else, I think it made people more aware about the hygiene factors of the office. It made people aware about the not so rigid ways of designing an office. It made people aware about the integrated aesthetical sort of undertones. So, for example, some of the office reception lobbies have now taken on a very, very hospitality grade sort of characters. The cafeterias are looking more like buzzing cafes and restaurants and stuff like that. The collaborative areas or certain areas within the office are looking very, very residentially inspired in certain ways. So it has become a beautiful convergence of a lot of different things, and so that what excites me the most in terms of the COVID was probably the way I look at COVID or post-pandemic scenario was that uh, I think all of us probably saw the lockdown day. So I see that day as a portal. So we came from pre-pandemic days through that lockdown day into the new world. So that was literally acted like a portal, and what we saw on the other side was, nowhere close to what we ever thought would be possible. But yet here we are, and I think it is only going to sort of improve. I don't know where will it go with the advance of AI. Again, people are sort of, all the experts are sort of putting this across in multi-dimensional manner, but I think only time will tell. My way of looking at AI would be probably it will probably allow you to do better and bigger things, and probably it might sort of reflect in the way your workplace design looks. But at least probably for the next 4 to 5 odd years, I think that's where you might call it biopic, but that's where my focus goes. I think the current workspace will continue to sort of grow, get slightly evolved, and the newer technologies will sort of come into play, and workplace will keep on absorbing things. And I would say that very, very cross-functional milieu of a lot of different elements will cause that convergence. So I think that would be my approach.
Perfect. When you start a project, what excites you most?
So there's always an adrenaline rush when we start any project. And that is the probably the most exciting part. There are two very interesting things. Uh, the projects are usually won through some sort of a competition, either a pitch or a competition or a bid. Most of the projects, I would say. So what happens typically is during the pitch stage or during the bid stage, uh, the trust factors go to a particular level. When the project gets awarded, and I'm going to start from that point, is where everybody's sort of revalidating their positions. Client is seeking a validation whether I made a right choice, and I am seeking a validation that I should be able to deliver on what I've committed. So that's the point of neutrality. And then what happens later basically either instills the confidence or sort of breaks it. So to bridge that first 1 week gap and to make sure that you're actually going on the right track, uh, all your teams are fully aligned, the clients are aligned, and instilling that sense of confidence that yes, we have chosen a great team, we have chosen a very, very sensible team, and they're going to deliver on what we sort of are envisaging our workspace to be, or any space to be for that matter. That's point number one. Uh, that still gives me goosebumps. So I'm nervous as hell before every kickoff meeting for a new project, even today, after probably 25 years.
That's great. That shows how passionate you are about your work even today and how you want to kill it even today.
Absolutely. So the second stage where I sort of always look forward to is that probably uh, the handover minus 30-day sort of a time frame. That's when the space is actually up. In the sense, the notion of space is up, the partition walls are up, the white space is up, the ceiling is almost closed, the floors are ready to receive finishes. So the entire workspace in all its glory, devoid of any finishes, I love to call that as a white space. And that's when you're trying to sort of tally your imagination versus the actual, in a way, the space
work
feels.
has come up, yeah.
And so what excites me the most is that, and I'm always in a hurry as to when am I going to see that day, when I start every project, because then that after that day, nothing possibly could go wrong. Everything is falling in place, the proportions are nice, the detailing is nice, and the surfaces are nice, and all my finishes and all my skins can now start going on top of each other. The technology can start getting talking to each other, and then ultimately the workspace is going to ultimately come about the way you are thought. So it is that milestone and the first day of initiating the project are the two most important sort of milestones in the journey that still gives me goosebumps.
Goosebumps. What are some upcoming design trends we should watch out for in 2026 and beyond?
Wow. I think the design field. I think you probably have a much more amazing ringside view of having
No, but
you know
we're talking
having
about
yeah.
your
So
perspective.
no, I understand that. So, but my point is that you're in such an amazing space to sort of hear from so many stalwarts and interact with them. So, in my limited capacity, I think the trends, I would say most of the people will talk about trends from purely aesthetical standpoint. I'm going to talk about it from a holistic standpoint. Uh, my uh, sort of forecast from a trend standpoint is that uh, we will see a great deal of convergence from a technology standpoint. Technology today is very, very scary uh, to people who are uninitiated. But ultimately, office spaces or the modern office spaces cannot function without a technology. So we will find a much more matured and an evolved way of integrating the technology in a workspace so that workplace aesthetics and the technology can coexist beautifully rather than being based in their own sort of segments. That's one part. Second part is the definition of what we call Zen or minimal is going to change, in the sense that whenever you talk about Zen or minimal, all that comes in front of your eyes is a Japanese garden.
That's what happened right now.
So to me,
I actually started thinking about it.
so
I'm
not to go in a
cherry
literal
blossom
direction.
zone
Yeah,
right now.
lovely. So to me, Zen is the notion of Zen for me is just getting it. Yeah, intuitively getting it. The workplace are becoming so complex that it is becoming difficult for people to navigate through them as to how am I going to get going on an MS Teams meeting. The most difficult question everybody faces.
Okay.
The screens fail, the collaboration fails, the meeting schedulers go for a toss, and stuff like that. Workplaces are becoming so big that people are finding it difficult to orient themselves. So the next evolution, I would say, would be from a point of view of actually how we are going to design a workplace that you just get it. How am I going to orient myself to quickly come inside, go to my desk, use all the amenities like washrooms and collab spaces and stuff like that. How am I going to orient myself in case of an eventuality I need to sort of egress the office and stuff like that. So that's a second thing. Third, very most important thing is that we will see a great deal of So these notions that a particular material and a particular aesthetics is meant for a particular typology, uh, I think we will see the industry or the clients shedding those notions, and as a result, you will see a great deal of experimentation from a materiality standpoint, uh, from conversions of aesthetical boundaries could possibly blur and make the modern day workplace to be very very different. And I'm saying different. I'm not going to typecast in a particular language. There are all sort of words being used, futuristic and world class and
Yeah, sure.
eclectic and stuff
To
like
each
that.
his own.
So
Yeah,
yeah, so
whatever
I'm
is
saying
your
rather
thought
than
process.
rather than phrasing it or rather than typecasting into something, it is going to become what it's going to become, and the key drivers are going to be how architects are going to sort of experiment with materials, how contractors are going to be able to deliver on what has been envisioned, and how the aesthetical inspirations from around the world or from within the, the industries or within the sectors is going to sort of start intermingling with that. So one is the conversions, second is the intuitive ability of designing the workspace, and third is essentially the shedding the notions of the typecast that went with certain types of material and the aesthetics. I think these three trends would definitely be watched out for. Fourth trend I'm not going to talk about because there has been a great talk about sustainability and wellness. To me, that's basic. That has to be there. Whether or not you go for a certification is a different story altogether. But the fact of the matter that everything that you do has to have a factor of sustainability and wellness embedded into it in a very intrinsic sort of a fashion. That's when you're not following a trend, but you're sort of making a very matured or a very sensitive sort of approach towards the way designs are done. So yeah, that's about it.
One question I want to ask you: when are you giving your next lecture?
On
On I think I need to send it out to colleges. It's like I'm feeling like I'm having a one-to-one, real one-to-one session where you're like teaching, giving a nice
I hope I'm not
lecture.
being too preachy.
No, I mean, if you have to say this in a college,
There
it's
have been offers, but I'm
amazing.
actually not taking them
You don't
right
have the
now.
time, I
No, no,
think.
I don't have the time. It's not that. I said, at the end of the day, it's a very. I'm passionate about it, and the people who
Passion
I'm
is an
going to,
understatement.
so people I'm going to talk to about this need to be reciprocal.
Yeah,
That's the most important part.
that's true.
So
The
the
seriousness,
seriousness
the
has to be there,
focus, yeah.
and what I should say is that see, you and me, or probably Maithili, and everybody can sort of relate to it because we have so many years behind us.
Yeah.
It's easy
But it's
to the fresh mind.
listen,
This is all toxic.
you are amazing
This is
to
all
give
toxic.
a lecture, yeah. मतलब ये सब्जेक्ट तो बच्चों को आप बोल के ही पास हो
Absolutely,
जाएंगे.
I would be more than happy.
Honestly,
I would
I'm
be more
not
than happy to
joking.
do it.
I mean, there's so much I have learned. If I have to write a test, I'm sure I'll pass. Genuinely, I'm like, he's put so much interest into the subject for me. Who's like literally
So there's so
layman.
much more to the table and chair, no?
I know. A
Than it
lot
becoming just
more.
table and chair.
Absolutely. Absolutely. No, but I am telling you, I'm not joking. Please consider,
I will.
when
Thank you,
you're
sir.
like, okay, a little bit,
Older,
not older.
wiser, more wiser.
No, when you feel that, okay, you can
So there have been offers
share your
from JJ
knowledge.
and all those the deans and principals are now at one point in time they taught us. They taught me. So I've sort of maintained that connect. And so we generally keep on talking very, very offline on various different topics. This morning only I was thinking, it would be so amazing to talk to young minds about the business of design. That is one thing which is not taught.
See?
I was actually thinking that I was, fast forward, I was trying to just structure a curriculum in my mind and whom I can go and talk to about this and probably
No,
see if I
you
can
should.
get it into an
See,
elective.
you've actually tried and tested yourself right now, and I think you're great.
Yeah, so uh, at the age and probably the number of years that you have typically spent in an industry, most of the people will start settling down. I have back to ground zero and sort of have grown this back to what it could become for the next decade
No,
or
I'm
so.
serious. I mean, this is
It's been a
something
fun ride.
I'm genuine and I'm very serious about what I'm saying. Because see, today you don't get this knowledge in a college. You do not get this in college. College is only fun.
And not only that, see when the so I say this very interestingly. So in the college, so obviously this I'm talking about in 90s. So imagination knew no bounds. You could think anything, right?
Even today, yeah.
Your ability to one draw and let it come on the paper, and second to make a model out of it. That was the limiting factor. My professors cannot read my mind. Ultimately, they are going to score me or judge me based on my
On your
model and my
models,
design and
yeah.
the way I'm going to represent the design. I always tell this to people in my office, or for that matter, anybody that I meet. Those handcuffs are off now.
And post COVID, it's
No, no,
all
it's
about.
completely off because there are no limiting factors. You can go crazy. There are tools available. There are 3D printing technologies available. If you cannot make a model, there are digital modeling softwares available. I said the tools to represent your design to the world are no more an issue. So what is stopping you?
Sure.
That's when actually this statement shows mirror to the people, and either people might take inspiration from it and probably grow further, or probably they will go into probably
No,
a.
this is, see, your kind of knowledge is not for the masses. It's not for students who are just there because मेरे पापा ने बोला है architecture करो. It is for the ones who are passionate. Otherwise, you're wasting
No,
your time.
totally. And at the end of the day, so I completely get it. So that is the only reason, because my point is that, see,
Your
I
pointers,
heard.
you're like, matlab, the child just needs to just make those pointers and he's sorted.
So just imagine,
So
when we were
simple.
kids, we had no disregard. We had very less regard for people who had grey hair. So likewise is going to happen with me at the end of the day. So
Why are you thinking like that?
no, no, I'm just saying. So
I
ultimately,
have
no, but
always,
what is also more heartwarming is, Balbir, forget the college. College, the notion of the college is that you're supposed to go there to get the education based on a certain curriculum. Now the curriculum is also getting expanded because colleges have to pick up and maintain the pace. The forums like ASTEC or the Design Conclave or the similar things that you sort of do, the amount of students I have seen participating, the amount of students that I've seen in the audience, that sort of reinstate my faith in the scenario where people always wanted to learn from the industry stalwarts, and you people are actually providing a platform to see their idols and the rock stars of the industry to actually present their cases. It's a masterclass in every way. It's a masterclass in the materiality of it, the imagination aspects of it. It is about uh, looking or deep or having a front row seat to the thought process of that particular architect or a legendary architect who's presenting his or her work. You probably 20, 30 years ago, you would not have it that easy. So I think thanks to you, that I think more than uh, anything else, I think having a platform available for the young minds, where, see, with the onset of internet and Pinterest and AI, it's like a buffet in front of you. Ultimately, now you need to know what you're going to take from it. I mean, in our age and time, it wasn't the case. We had to literally go deep dive research into something and then probably pick that we wanted. And God forbid if we made a wrong choice, we have crossed a mile at the point of no return. These guys can change their course. Very very coolly. So, I think that one aspect of having a forum to them, and forum which is again at the localized level. So it's not only that, for example, ISTEC happens in Mumbai. It's happening now, I believe, in Bangalore, Hyderabad, Delhi,
yeah,
and probably smaller
14.
satellite
Yeah,
events in
events.
multiple locations. Boss, this is something which is exciting. Ultimately, we never had this forum where, or if those forums where they were very very elite, and a student would probably be a little more skeptical or scared to sort of go and participate in that. But here, I think having that platform where they're able to see and sort of enrich their minds in multiple different ways. See, sometimes what happens is, young minds are capable of dreaming thousand things. They need they need to have a definition of a similar tangible form that they are able to see as a successful role model to be able to match. That very very at the end of the day, it all greatly depends on whom you follow. Your thought process might change. Your your beliefs might undergo changes. Ultimately, your experiences, your worldview is going to make you the person that you are. And ultimately, architecture or design is all about that. It's about absorbing, seeing things around, and ultimately getting it reflected either in form of master planning at a macro level, or designing a small bedroom at a very very micro, or designing a desk and a chair at a micro level. So it's in a way it is quite overwhelming, but in a way it is quite exciting.
How do you maintain quality control when executing projects across geographies?
So there are that's a very process oriented aspect. So there are multiple different sort of ways and means you can sort of design the quality. I'm not going to get into the method aspects of how we ensure the quality. I'm going to focus on how an architect can actually design in a way that his detailing, his material choices, uh, uh, his experience are all rolled into one to deliver a qualitative sort of an aspect. I mean, it can only come with the time, but then that's the job of a principal architect, is to ensure that it sort of touch upon the points that are potential risks. Dispense the mitigating advice at an early stage. And there are certain, so my advice to people always is that the fact of the matter is that your job is about being creative. It's also about what's not to be done as much as it's about what's to be done. So you need to constantly learn from your past. You need to also unlearn a lot of things in this process, which is the most difficult part, because at many times what happens is that too many people doing the wrong thing, it becomes the right thing, in the perception of the mind. So somebody has to step up, stand up, and say that, guys, this is something that is not going to work. So quality to me starts at the design level, and that's where we design first, we draw second, and then probably it gets built a third. So if the design thinking and the engineering part of it has been done with a great deal of due diligence, I think then the qualitative aspects on the side would remain predominantly a tick boxes, which then there are multiple ways and means you can actually sort of ensure that. But my approach over there as far as the qualitative aspects of the concern is that about how you make your design choices, about how you impart your learnings, about how you impart your experiences into various aspects of your projects in the design detailing.
Market and industry perspective. How do you see the Indian architecture industry evolving in the next 5 years? This is overall, be it workspace.
No, yeah, I understand. So I would say evolution. I mean, probably the onset of internet is when the evolution actually kickstarted. That was basically where, as everybody likes to call, the world went flat, and it's easy to evolve because it's very easy to travel. It is very easy to reach out to anyone. It is very easy to do the research. It is very easy to go and observe things. It is very easy to go and collaborate, interact with whomever. What was happening in one corner of the world and probably something else was happening in the second corner of the world is no more the case. Uh, all these sort of opportunities has created this as a level playing field. There might be certain country or region specific scenarios in terms of how that evolution will sort of take shape. But in my opinion, I think the process of evolution has now become quite even across all the geographies. It predominantly depends on how you can unleash your imagination now. So as I said early on, the handcuffs are off. There are no limiting factors. So with that logic, the only limiting factors are your imagination, and second is the buildability of that imagination. And barring that, I don't think there is any sort of a restriction on how this industry is going to evolve. But evolution, if you're talking about predominantly from a industry acceptance or industry-wide acceptance, I would say I've seen a great. See, only architects. There is no point in only architects or designers getting involved. The ultimate benefactors are my clients or the sponsors.
Of course.
So the more exposed my clients are, uh, it might be good, bad, or ugly to me, depending on the what sort of a
Mindset.
reciprocity that comes from there. But I've seen a great change in the way clients are forthcoming and in terms of their ability to actually accept uh, some very very interesting design decisions or some very very interesting trends. So ultimately, we are doing it at their cost. So we have a responsibility towards that. Uh, so while architects have evolved, architects have been always wanting to do exciting work, revolutionary work, path-breaking works. Ultimately, I can proudly now say that the client side or the people who are actually going to be, whom we are going to design for and build for, uh, have seen a great evolution on their side, and which is making the entire opportunity available to us.
What separates a good design firm from a great one? You want to go
What
for it?
separate a good design from a great design? Great designs, what people like to typically call as iconic. Uh, Now, interestingly, iconic is such an abused word today. I'm
Added
saying this
word.
at the risk of sound controversial, but there is a way you can design an iconic anything. Uh, so to me, the iconic is about. So it is as much about the beauty and the aesthetics and the proportions and you know the whole the external aspects of it. To me, the iconic also means that its ability to leave a recall. So good design and great design, the differentiating factor is its ability to leave the recall. If I have answered it to your satisfaction.
Sure.
Yeah, that was difficult.
How do you identify and nurture young talent in your firm?
Frankly, my way of nurturing the young talent or identifying them is quite informal, frankly speaking. So my HR always keeps on saying that we need to have these training sections and stuff. I said, fact of the matter is that most of our design meetings typically go, or any kind of discussions go on slightly longer than usual because while you're discussing on a particular agenda, there are also I try to sort of insert a lot of snippets. At times they are relevant, at times they are slightly digressional. But then, my way of sort of nurturing the young talent is quite hands-on and a project basis or a situation basis. I'm not going to sit down people and say I'm now going to take a lecture on an XYZ topic. And so it's a very freewheeling sort of a discussion that takes place. I take pencil in my hand or a marker in my hand, start drawing, and then people basically get to see a lot of things in that. The choice of words, the adjectives, ability to put your thought clearly, ability to sort of have the gumption or the guts to say what you want to say, propose what you want to say. It of course comes with a sense of responsibility. So for for someone who's actually trying to learn uh, without knowing that he's learning is actually my way of doing it, frankly speaking. So
I'm your student for today. I didn't know I was learning and I've learned so much. I just said that some time ago.
yeah, the only challenge what happens there is that the gap between the comprehension is where I tend to become impatient, but I think age will sort of
Oh
solve
my
that
god,
problem
you're
as well.
like really waiting to grow old, huh? What's wrong with you? It's just a number.
No, no, I'm saying it's not about number. It's about the
It's
number of
about the
experiences that you pile up.
experience,
Yeah,
yeah, so
it's
it's the
about that.
experiences.
So I was a learning now. This is how you need to talk. This is how you need to be patient. Just okay, just watch out.
Superb. So leadership you're talking about. So what role does mentorship play in your leadership style?
My leadership style is, to say the least, it's very interesting. I always keep on telling my co-directors and my colleagues, you know, make me redundant as quickly as possible. If I am not going to vacate my position, you cannot, no, somebody else cannot take my position, and then somebody below them cannot take their position and stuff like that. Uh, so that's predominantly my leadership style. Uh, and another facade of my leadership style is something what I call it as alert detachment. I'm
Nice.
alert as well as I'm detached. So
Nice.
I know where to sort of remain alert and where to stay detached. Uh, that's second important part, and the third and the most important part at the end of the day is that, if you want to grow, uh, you cannot create a glass ceiling for them. Uh, there are two kinds of people: one who are able to break their own glass ceilings, and there is another kind of people who probably want someone else to break their glass ceiling for them. So I'm okay for either of them. It's just that you need to create that ecosystem where people would want to sort of grow, or if somebody has that aggression, or somebody has that ambitious nature, so these people are going to come with their own ideas. These people are going to come with their own way of doing things. These people might not want to do things the way you wanted them to do. So it's a very, very fine line. But then I believe in, when we say we are going to grow, or when we say that I'm the leader, or when we say there are multiple leaders in this organization, ultimately leadership and the authority that comes with it doesn't come to you with the designation that you carry. Ultimately, you need to earn it from the people. That's very, very important. You need to lead hands-on as their role model, because ultimately, what you do or don't do, they are ultimately going to hold that benchmark in terms of their behavior. So you need to be very, very responsible. And I'm still learning in that department, I would frankly say. So that's the very important point. One is that the leader also, always has to think himself as a redundant person in that organization. Second is that he need to exercise alert detachment, and third, he needs to create a environment where there is a room for the diverse thought process that the ambitious young leaders who are going to grow within the organization, that needs to exist.
How do you stay motivated when handling multiple large scale projects simultaneously?
I don't think it requires any motivation as an exercise at all. So I am as excited as I was probably 25 years ago when I'm waking up from my bed and this is what I'm going to get to do today. Yeah, there are highs and lows, and ultimately you learn to cope up with them. But the unique aspects of every project that we're designing, or every assignment that you're doing, every unique aspect where the business is sort of moving in the direction, the challenges in terms of getting the right talent, challenges in terms of making space for talent to grow, to adapt to new technologies. So there are countless things in front of you. You can choose to be either be overwhelmed with it, or then be excited about it. The moment you're going to get excited about it, I think motivation is only a step away from that. So that's my way of, I'm perpetually excited about everything that I see around.
What advice would you give to young architects who want to start their own firm?
I think I have come to a belief where I don't know if there is such a phrase, but if you go to my LinkedIn profile, you'll probably see that as a master rather than my designation. So it says, every design, its time must come.
Every design,
Its time must come.
its time must.
So very interestingly put, I'm just going to elaborate on that. So whoever wants to start a practice, you can be ahead of the times, you can be behind the times. At times you might be playing the catch-up game, but ultimately for anything, when I say design is not literally in the sense of aesthetical design I'm talking about. Design is, I'm talking about how you're actually designing a situation also. So it's about designing a practice also. So when you say he succeeded for my designs, or because of my designs, or whatever it is. So my point is very simple. In case of a design, or in case of a project design, typically what happens is that you may be able to come up with a very exciting new concept. Great, I did my part. I need a client who believes in that concept. Otherwise, it becomes an unbuilt project. Okay, I visualized, I got a client who did it. Great. Now I need a contractor who's going to build it. If he fails, then it's a no-show. Great. All three of us came to the table. I designed. I got a client who believed in me. I got a contractor who built it for me. Now the real test is the people who are going to actually use it. Are they going to get the same experience that I thought they would get? Great. That's fourth point one. Fifth is the time signature. Can that experience be for the desired period of time or the prolonged period of time? So, is my design maintainable in the way I wanted it to be so that it can keep on giving the same experience to people? It can keep on adapting to micro trends. Unless and until these 4 or 5 things are done, it cannot be called as a successful design. So, likewise, in any situation, there are these 3 or 4 or 5 prerequisites. So, unless and until that happens, hence I like to call for everything to happen, its time must come. At the end of the day, you cannot be ahead of the time, you cannot be behind the time. You need to be right in time, but you need to be armed with an experience to identify that opportunity. Have somebody who's be able to sponsor you. Sponsor, when I say not in a financial way, I'm saying somebody who believes in you. You have the ecosystem around you to then take that notion or take that germ of an idea into an actual execution. So I think once that sort of nail gets hit, and you need to be very observant for that moment, because these moments don't come again and again.
See, now this kind of an answer, if there's any student who's thinking also, the one who's really passionate will only be able to start his own firm, the other one will say, मैं job ही कर लेता हूँ क्योंकि मैं इतनी मेहनत
Also, I
नहीं कर
think
पाऊंगा।
I think the credit goes to you also, that you have, I think, touched a lot of raw nerves, and I think being ability to make the other person talk, probably, and then make him reach the unknown depths. I think the credit probably goes to you also.
Okay, so now if you had to describe your journey in one sentence, Kshitij, only one sentence.
Don't think you are, know you are. That's it. It's my favorite dialogue from the movie called Matrix.
Okay, don't think.
Don't think you are, know you are.
No.
That's it. That's the words that I live by every single day.
This is the most crisp answer you have
Yes.
given me. What does building the future truly mean to Kshitij Limaye?
Building the future in what sense?
When it comes to, in your category, when it comes to architecture or whatever comes to your mind.
To me, building the future it's actually risky. As I said again, while all of us love to sort of play our own versions of oracles, but I think to me, building the future would be to actually be able to, what I call, defy the model. So that's a very loaded statement. When we say modern, anything that is sort of newly in fashion or something which is not yet found its feet, it's called as modern. If you are able to defy something that is yet to come from our actions today, and that might go in every way. So, for example, I can decide to either get scared or overwhelmed with the way AI is taking up everything. Another way is that I can actually figure out a way, which I'm currently doing, by the way, and I'm actually playing it like a toy right now, and not in a way. My way of tinkering with AI is not about creating images and stuff like that. I'm actually creating some very exciting new systems and trying to see what sort of inefficiencies can be taken out of certain aspects of the business of design or business of design and build, where I can sort of be far more effective in terms of the way my people are going to be able to communicate with my clients, right? So I think greatly it is our ability to defy the model is going to, set the tone of how we actually see the future or how we respond towards what will come in the future.
Very well said.
Thank you so much.
Again.
Thank you so much.
Okay, one last final closing
Okay.
question. What do you have to tell us about ACE-Tech?
I have seen, I'm going to start from the day I heard about ACE-Tech first, and then there were very few of such organized formats, if I'm not wrong. I have seen ACE-Tech grow exponentially, and when I say exponentially, it's not only about the square footage that you sort of put in one singular location, but I've seen ACE-Tech grow exponentially from a vision standpoint. See, ultimately it is the vision that your journey is responding to. uh, between you, Sumit, and your entire extended district family. I have, it's been amazing to know you all and have been part of it in some way or the other. And the way we have been able to sort of get, I want to call them stakeholders of the industry together, be it the manufacturers, be it the suppliers, be it the vendor partners, be it the designers, or whatever that basically comes in that fold, and sort of create an ecosystem at a concept level. And it is not only about creating a platform for a B2B exposure, it is also about, as I said, exposing the young minds and the professionals alike. Because ultimately, even at this stage of my career or my professional journey, I still love to go and listen to what my other counterparts in the industry are doing. So one is creating that platform for the B2B exposure. Business happens out of that or not, I'm sure that's only a logical next step. And second is creating the platform, taking these platforms to multiple cities, multiple smaller cities in a scaled down avatar. So what you guys doing, while it's a business, very few people can actually, take the credit for creating a business which has a very noble sort of outcome at the end of the day. And I think, I'm going to summarize it by saying that you guys are doing a very noble work by bringing the industry together, creating the opportunities where everybody can, have the opportunity to grow exponentially, collaborate with each other, learn from each other, and and more power to you guys. And I think keep doing the great work that you're doing, and
Thank you so much.
keep taking this to the people so that we can see an amazing, and this is actually, I would say, contributing to the nation building, frankly speaking, because uh, it's a responsibility of every platform which has so many subscribers to sort of use that responsibility very judiciously, which ultimately is going to ask people to innovate, ask people to collaborate, ask people to learn from each other, ask people to get exposed to the newer trends, and ultimately all of this is going to come in some way or the other in the notion of building of our motherland, or I would call it as nation building, and I take great pride in it. That's where my journey started, and that's where I'm going to end this discussion by taking the decision not to go abroad to study, so that I could participate. And I think it's a very poetic closure to this discussion, if I can say so. And so yeah, all the best to you guys, and amazing work that you're doing.
Thank you so much, Kshitij. It was lovely talking to you.
Thank you so much.
Actually learned a lot in this talk with you. Thanks a lot.
I hope you want to edit this, because at times I'm very, very,
You
very,
were
very
great.
nervous and
You were great.
very,
Thank
very
you
fiddly.
guys.
Thank you so
for
much.
watching.